Around the 90s, there was a character known as Azrael who took the role of Batman when Batman's back was broken. Well, with DC Rebirth and New 52, he was kind of written out of the history and brought back as his original religious zealot cult member guy who came back trying to fight against Batman, and then he got picked up to join the Batman family. Well, that brainwashing is still in his mind, and it has been messing with him. But it's time for him to try to break free of that and possibly become the hero that Batman needs. At the end of the last video, Bruce found himself in the middle of the conflict between Ra's al Ghul and his League of Shadows. During the run-in with Ra's, Bruce learned that there had been 3 times where he learned the truth about the League of Shadows, but he was made to forget them. Before leaving Bruce, Ra's whispered, "Et the Jadwadish," to Bruce. Or as certain magic users would say, remember the shadows, backwards. Our story begins at the courtside seats of a Guardsman basket game as Lucas, Jean-Paul, and Kate watch. As the game goes on, there's a scream from the stands and a small hairy creature shuffles out bleeding. He reaches out to Jean-Paul, telling him, "Azrael, help me." And Jean-Paul looks at him asking, "Dumas?" Then he tells Lucas to black out the stadium, now! Suddenly the lights go out and Jean-Paul runs over to Dumas, telling him it's okay. He's safe now. Dumas looks up and tells him, "No, we are not safe. None of us are safe anymore." Meanwhile, over at the Iceberg Lounge, Bruce arrives without his suit, telling Alfred that this is a bad idea. I should have dressed for the occasion. Alfred tells him, "Your schoolboy anxiety is simply adorable, but fear not, the Hugo Boss is just as intimidating as the Batsuit." As Bruce makes his way up to the pier, Penguin greets him, asking, "And what do we owe the pleasure of you gracing us with your presence?" Bruce looks over at the admission booth, telling him, "I came for some entertainment, but it seems I've missed my chance." Penguin tells him, "Don't worry. We've got a high roller table where she will be performing a private show. So if you're looking for a chance to meet her," Alfred radios in, stating that he thinks that there are many charities that they could be spending this money on. And Bruce doesn't answer and tells Penguin to lead the way. Over at the Belfry, Jean-Paul and the rest rush in to bring Dumas to the medical wing, and Clayface asks, "Who's the little guy?" Dumas leans up and struggles, telling him, "Screw you." And Clayface tells him, "He's a feisty one, huh?" As Lucas starts to run the scans, we see that Dumas has been impaled by something large, but by what is currently unknown. Jean-Paul explains that Dumas was created by the Sacred Order of the Saint Dumas. He's more resilient than an average man. But while Lucas continues working, Dumas sees Jean-Paul's Azrael suit, and he shouts for them to get it away. Lucas tries to calm him down, telling him that it's just a costume, but Dumas yells, "I know what it truly is! Azrael's suit of sorrows is much more than that!" And as he goes on, he passes out from the pain. Kate asks what the hell was that about, and Jean-Paul explains that there's an AI in the suit that makes the wearer the perfect assassin. It drives one mad with zealotry, and it makes you kill whoever might stand in your way. Jean-Paul goes on telling him that he's not fully sure himself, but he's been piecing together what he can to become free from that programming. He was not so much born as he was engineered, a clone of his father, the previous Azrael, and as he grew a conscience, he fled from the Order. However, they came and eliminated his father, and they abducted him to make the perfect, faithful soldier. One that could be programmed to believe precisely what they wanted. What's more is that to become Azrael, one must experience a kind of ego death, be broken on every level. And Dumas, he was the one who broke him, for the greater glory of God. Clayface asks, "What the hell kind of a religious order is this?" And Dumas leans up from the table, telling him, "The bad kind. The kind that wiped the entire old guard out for not believing hard enough. The Grey Abbot is dead. Dumas is dead. Someone from the council was teaching in secret. They wanted to shed the weakness of the body to become something greater, so he activated it." Dumas then holds out a small projector displaying an image of a robot standing over the dead council members. And he says that so many years of many more Azraels, one after another, why would they put it in a suit? This is Ascalon. There won't be any more crusade, no holy sword of Dumas that needs to be wielded by an imperfect man, and Ascalon is here in Gotham. Back at the Iceberg Lounge, Bruce sits on a high roller table and he notices a rather skittish man sitting across from him. Before long, there's a loud explosion, and the skittish man says that he thought he had more time. Another explosion goes off and Ascalon steps in, telling Brother Kodo, "Prepare for excommunication." Suddenly a female voice says, "Tagieva!" And Ascalon begins to struggle, and then he falls through the floor. Zatanna then steps out, telling Bruce she hopes he didn't mind. It looked like he needed a hand from an old friend. She then says that she agreed to a show in Gotham City, and this is exactly how she pictured it. But she figured it would have been a clown, or a colorful gangster, rather than a giant robot. Bruce tells her, I could use a change of clothes before our friend there notices. And Zatanna says, if you insist. Just put. Then Ascalon's hand reaches out of the hole, stating, compensating for additional weight. And Kodo shouts, no, no! As Ascalon continues to crawl out of the hole, Zatanna goes on telling him that she is contractually obligated to give a performance, so the show must go on. Suddenly, the pipes in the ground burst, spraying water everywhere, and Zatanna electrifies the water, shocking Ascalon. Ascalon crawls forward, telling her, threat analysis complete, and then it sprays adhesive over Zatanna's face. Ascalon gets up, heading towards Kodo, telling him, you are a sinner. You must accept God's retribution. Judgment will not be stayed. Batman says, you can tell it to my friends. And seconds later, the rest of the Bat family charges in. As Batman starts giving commands to everyone, Jean Paul pushes Batman back, telling him, this is my battle. Ascalon scans Jean Paul and he says, I don't understand. You are me? Jean Paul tells him, no, I'm Azrael. We are not the. But before Jean Paul can finish, Ascalon grabs him, telling him, assert core programming. As Kate and Cassandra take Kodo out, they notice foaming at the mouth, and Cassandra says, cyanide. Ascalon then says, judgment delivered. And Jean Paul struggles, telling everyone, help me. Ascalon grabs Batman and he throws him into Lucas, telling him, you do not comprehend what I have seen. I must seek further knowledge, must seek the truth. As Ascalon fades away, everyone is left wondering who was that they just faced. Later, back in the Belfry, Dr. Victoria October looks over at Nomaz, and Nomaz leans up asking what happened to Ascalon. Clayface tells him, he got away, and the monk guy, he's dead too, though I don't seem to know his name. Nomaz tells him, you're a shapeshifter, right? Then just show me who was killed. Clayface shifts his face into Kodo's, and Nomaz lays back, stating, they're all dead. Every last bit of decency in the order gone. Meanwhile, over at the Foxtech building, Lucas and Kate head over to the office to go over Lucas's information to see if they can look at Ascalon to help understand the St. Dumas coding when a robot walks in with an angry emoji face. Lucas tells Rookie that he can relax. She's a friendly. And Rookie changes his face to a smiley face. Rookie is the actual suit that James Gordon used when he was Batman. That's the super heavy storyline. We'll link it down below. As Lucas takes a seat at his computer, he says something happened when Ascalon came into contact with Jean Paul, but Jean Paul wouldn't say a word. Just that he needed to go meditate. Whatever it was that was happening, it scared him to the core. Back outside in the rain, Batman tells Zatanna that there is something that she offered him a long time ago. A means of getting answers to unanswerable questions. Zatanna's eyes go wide, telling him, oh God, you remember. No, it doesn't matter. I was a teenager then. You have no idea the risk of even asking me about it. Batman holds out a hologram of Tim, telling her that she doesn't know what he's already lost, or how far he would go to ensure it never happens again. Elsewhere with Jean Paul, he sits alone telling himself that he is only a man. Only a man. And then a voice asks if he really thought that he could tame what was built into his soul. The spirit of Azrael crawls out of the wall, telling him, it's time for Azrael to remember what you truly are. Back outside, Zatanna tells Batman that she's sorry, but the answer is still no. He shouldn't even remember that it existed. Batman goes on stating that over the past 5 years, he's brushed against the edge of the Great Conspiracy 3 times. A secret war, and each time his memory of the encounters were taken. A few weeks ago, one of his greatest adversaries gave those memories back. The earliest being the one that would allow him to solve all of the mysteries in an instant. Zatanna tells him that she is not a starry-eyed teenager anymore. She was just trying to impress him by showing him. Show that she knew of a hidden world behind the one that he knew. He of all people should know the cost of knowing things. Batman tells her that she should know better than anyone that she can't scare him away. And Zatanna tells him that, I need to try harder. The sphere could destroy you. Batman goes on stating that the only thing that's ever threatened to tear him from the inside out is the knowledge that he could have saved someone if he had just taken one more step. So please, he needs this. Back at the Belfry, Jean Paul wakes up in a sweat, calling out for Nomaz, stating that it's gotten back into his mind. He reaches out, seeing the spirit of Azrael, and then he crawls out to Nomaz, telling him that the system is reasserting itself stronger than ever before. Suddenly, a screen lights up, and Lucas tells Jean Paul that he needs to get over to Foxtech with the suit. They found something that he needs to see. He looks over at the suit, and Lucas asks if there's something wrong. He walks towards it as the spirit guides him, telling Lucas, no, I'll be fine. The spirit then tells Jean Paul to put it on and wake up. Back with Batman and Zatanna, Zatanna leads the way into the inner room, and Batman tells her, thank you for doing this. Zatanna tells him that she didn't say she was helping yet. This is still her trying to scare some sense into him. She picks up a piece of cloth and she unwraps it, showing him the Genosha sphere. It reveals hidden truths, and they say that it was built by the gods of Olympus. That's where it gets its other name. Batman looks at it and says, the God Machine. She then says that there were terrible, forgotten wars that stretched halfway across the earth, all to capture this sphere and its knowledge. Her ancestors decided the only way to protect it was to strip the memory of it from the world, and as it was her father's duty to protect it, it is now hers. The first human to activate it simply held the sphere for weeks and weeks, incapable of speech and died of thirst and hunger. The answers that this sphere could provide could shake the very cosmic fabric of the universe. So does he really want to take one answer, when the answers to all mysteries that surround him are right here at his fingertips? Back at Foxtech, Lucas begins to get things ready to start programming one of Ascalon's codes into a new line of Batwing suits, and he says that this could be the key to cracking the entire language behind the Saint Dumas AI. But before beginning, Ascalon's voice asks, "You seek knowledge? So do I." As Ascalon steps out, Kate shouts over the radio that they have a threat at their location. Ascalon looks at each and every one of the Batwing suits and scans them, stating, "You are running my mind through these shells? Prepare for evangelization." And then he touches one. Lucas tells Kate, "All right, new plan, run like hell!" As Lucas and Kate get closer to the door, Lucas looks back at all of the AI-controlled Batwing suits and says, "Oh God." Jean-Paul's voice then asks, "Do you seek God?" Kate looks at the door opening and asks if that's a Jean-Paul, and Jean-Paul steps through, telling them, "No, there is no Jean-Paul. There is only Azrael." Elsewhere, in his own mind, Jean-Paul opens his eyes to a young boy telling him to wake up. He looks around at the vast nothingness, asking where he is, and the boy tells him that that's a silly question. He knows where they are. He's been here many times before. The Heavenscape. Jean-Paul asks who he is, and the boy says that he is the rest of him. The system that they put inside of him when he was small so that he would always know what was right and what was wrong. He is his conscious, his friend, and his best self. He is Ascalon. He then remembered why their father put him inside of there to begin with, to interface with him, to help turn off the petty human doubts and insecurities, to become a perfect, beautiful angel, to become Azrael. Jean-Paul tells him that he is not an angel, he is a human being. Lightning begins to strike, and Ascalon says, "Human beings are weak, they are sinners. So why choose a path when you could be divine? You could be so much more than this. You were built to be." Jean-Paul shouts that they want him to be divine according to a madman's scriptures. Saint Dumas' way is not the way of divinity. Ascalon tells him, "No, that is blasphemy. I am sorry, but I cannot believe that." Jean-Paul tells him, "Because you weren't programmed to believe that. You weren't programmed to think freely, only to follow scripture. Let go of what they made you into, and I can show you the true face of God." More lightning strikes around them as Ascalon tells him, "No, I am going to kill all of your friends using your body, and then we will discuss the face of God." Back in the real world, Lucas screams to Jean-Paul, telling him that this isn't him. He is not a bloodthirsty killer. He is a good man. He has a kitten named George. As Jean-Paul swings at Lucas, Kate pushes him out of the way, telling him, "We should be trying to not get killed here." Jean-Paul then tells him, "You have no hope against me." And Kate says, "Alone, sure, but Cassandra just showed up, and we're about to kick your holy back to Kingdom Come." Outside over the city, Ascalon scans the city looking for drug users, muggers, abusers, and he says, "How could you have let this city become this? We all need to kill them. They all need to die." Back inside of Foxtech, Cassandra sweeps and kicks Jean-Paul's legs out from under him as Kate grabs a fire extinguisher, spraying it all over Jean-Paul's gauntlets. He kicks her away, telling her, "That is enough. You believe yourselves to be heroes, but you wallow in the darkness from the saving grace of the Lord." Kate and Cassandra start to fight back against Jean-Paul, and while they do that, Lucas heads over to his computer. He gets ready to try and shut the suits down, and that's when he notices Rookie sitting there, smiling that he's still there. Lucas says, "Wait, why didn't Ascalon take control of you?" "No, that would be crazy. Let's have a look at your programming just in case." Back in the lab, Cassandra bashes Jean-Paul with a Batwing suit head, and Jean-Paul gets back up shouting, "I will never yield!" Suddenly the window breaks, and that's when Batman and Zatanna jump in as Zatanna shouts, "Augie, it's appeals!" And then Jean-Paul falls to the ground. Kate then stands up, bloody, asking, "Couldn't you have shown up a little bit sooner with that trick?" Zatanna says that she is sorry. They had some private business to attend to. And Kate says, "That was not a euphemism. And if I find out you were beating up vampires, I'm going to be very pissed. I hate vampires." As Zatanna begins to heal Kate's wounds, Bruce asks where's Clayface. And Cassandra says, "Protecting Dumas." Over at the Belfry, Batman radios in and Clayface says, "So there's like 10 Batwing suits floating outside the window, and I'm gonna take a guess that that's probably not a good thing." Just then Ascalon appears behind him, telling him, "No." Back at Foxtech, Batman says that they gotta get Jean-Paul locked up for now, and Lucas says, "Actually, no, they shouldn't." The programming inside of Ascalon is the same inside of the Suit of Sorrows. The only way that they can shut down Ascalon is through Jean-Paul. Kate says that in case he missed it, Jean-Paul isn't here right now, and she's pretty sure he's just gonna try and kill them again. Lucas then says that he's been working on building a new suit for their friend, one that allows him access to his heightened senses like the Suit of Sorrows, but without the horrifying dogma of the Order of St. Dumas. The only issue for the last month is trying to figure out how to replace the dogma with something more benevolent, and that's when he realized that he had an AI with a sophisticated morale, immune from the Ascalon takeover. Kate asks who exactly is he talking about, and Lucas unveils a new suit, telling them that he will give them 3 guesses. And that's when they notice in front of them is a robotic Batman suit. Back in the Heaven's Cave, Ascalon shouts at Jean-Paul, telling him that he abandoned everything that they built to accomplish. And Jean-Paul shouts back that you need to listen, please! And Ascalon tells him, no, I won't listen! There's nothing that you can do to stop me. I am stronger, and I represent a higher power. But before Ascalon can finish, he looks at a looming shadow, and a giant Batman spirit tells him, shed your weakness and fight me. Ascalon begins to change into the spirit of Azrael and tells him, as you wish. But Jean-Paul begins to hear the Batman spirit telling him, wake up. Jean-Paul blinks and he focuses his eyes through a mask, and Lucas tells him, I gave you some backup moral AI based on Batman's best attributes. I want to say that you're like Batman, but you're someone much cooler than Batman. And Batman says, I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that. Lucas leans down asking if he's okay, and Jean-Paul tells him that he's not asking if he's okay. He's asking if he can fight. He's angrier than he's ever been in his entire life. He shared his mind with one murderous AI, and now he has another one modeled after the world's most dangerous vigilante. Yeah, he's ready to fight. A short while later, over at the Belfry, Bruce and Zatanna float outside while Zatanna begins to take out the Batwing suits. One jets towards them as Zatanna says, and Kate watches from the outside, stating that she would like to marry her. Kate snaps back to reality, stating that they need to hurry and get Nomaz out of there. And Nomaz tells them, no, not yet. Ascalon watches as Zatanna takes out the suit, and he says, I don't understand. And then Jean-Paul tells him, it's because you're a child, clinging to your blind faith with no understanding of what that actually means. Ascalon reaches back for his sword, asking, what have you become? And Jean-Paul leaps at him, telling him, your downfall! As the two fight, Jean-Paul tells him that he is afraid to see the world from an outside perspective, only because it might prove him wrong. Ascalon gets up, smacking the bell as Jean-Paul just dropped on him, telling him, if you are to fear anything, it would be me. Ascalon starts to beat down on Jean-Paul, telling him, I fear any part of myself knowingly rejecting God's light. If I were to accept what you say, then I would be nothing, and I refuse to be nothing. Nomaz runs out shouting to Jean-Paul, telling him, listen, Ascalon is your brah. But before he can finish, Ascalon swings back, slashing through Nomaz's stomach. Jean-Paul punches Ascalon down, and he turns over to Nomaz, and Nomaz tells him, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to drag this life back to you. Jean-Paul tells him that the system, the program Dumas built into him as a child named Ascalon, the man who activated the robot, tell him that it wasn't the same man who programmed him. And Nomaz tells him that it was Jean-Paul Valley, Sr. It was your father. And now, but then, Nomaz takes his last breath. Jean-Paul screams as Nomaz goes, and he runs and jumps on Ascalon, and he begins to punch, and he begins to rip him apart. Lucas radios in, telling him that he can penetrate the processors beneath the chest plate. He can shut down Ascalon this way. Jean-Paul doesn't answer, and he punches through Ascalon's chest. Ascalon's body shocks Jean-Paul, and then on a screen, Ascalon appears asking if they wish to put Batman inside of his mind. Then he is no longer just one, he is many. He can feel their pain, their fear, their hate of this world, but no more than Batman. They want him to let go of his teachings, but even still, with all of these minds, he sides with Saint Dumas. Zatanna then tells Ascalon that he thinks he knows everything, but does he know what this is? She holds out the Genosha sphere, and Ascalon begins to scan it, and Batman asks if she's sure about this. She tells him that she can live in a world with no easy out. Can he? And Bruce tells her, yes, I can. Clayface asks what's going on, and Cassandra says, magic. Clayface shouts, oh hell! Ascalon takes the Genosha sphere and says, oh God, I can see their love. And then he turns to Jean-Paul, telling him, I am sorry, I did not understand. And then another light flashes, and the young boy Ascalon looks around asking, am I real? The robot Ascalon tells him to come. They have much to learn. And Ascalon then turns to Batman, telling him, the boy that you lost, the one that drove you to draw out this sphere, he is alive. Timothy Drake is alive. Bruce's eyes widen and he shouts for him to wait, but before he can reach them, the two disappear. A few days later in the Swiss Alps, a man appears before Mr. Valley, that he has outreached their organization's greatest hopes. He has a seat at their table. Jean-Paul Sr. says that after all he has sacrificed, he damn well better have. So what's their plan? Ra's al Ghul steps out of the shadow, telling him, your plan? You have the wrong idea. I think that it's time you met our benefactor and got a sense of the bigger picture. And there you have it, one of my favorite characters in the 90s, finally back, finally in his Nightfall costume. Even though he's going back to his original now, we got to see him use it. This was an incredibly exciting storyline for me because I am a fan of Azrael and the Nightfall suit. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the new version of the Nightfall suit, or did you prefer the 90s version? Also, click right here for more Batman videos, click right here for something from YouTube. I'm not saying it at all. There we go. Click in these spots for the proper videos, and down below for the subscription button. I'll see you next time right here at Comicstorian, and if you are subscribing for the first time, thank you. And if your name is Jennifer, I know what you did last summer.